Never go to the second location. Always trust your gut.
Hello, my name is Chrissy Champagne, and you are listening to Residue, a true crime podcast dedicated to keeping you paranoid. And on Residue, we tell you the truth behind your favorite movies. Today, we're talking about a Lifetime movie from 2023 titled Stolen Baby, The Murder of Heidi Broussard. And before we begin, I just have to let you know that you can follow me on Instagram at Residue Podcast, TikTok at Residue, a true crime podcast, and Facebook at Residue, a true crime podcast. And as always, the best thing you can possibly do for any podcast that you love is leave a positive review. You know what? I'm going to share a review that I just got today on Apple Podcasts. I'm not going to share DMs unless you guys want me to, but I get some pretty fantastic DMs that just make my day. This is a review titled Fantastic Pod. 5 stars, new fan, adore the storytelling, the crossover of the real-life events behind films. As a true crime fan, I was starting to get bummed on previously loved pods. Glad I found this, my new fave. Dude, that is the greatest review. I love you guys. And before we get started, as always, listener discretion is advised. Stolen Baby, The Murder of Heidi Broussard is a made-for-TV movie distributed on Lifetime. I actually watched this movie on Tubi. It was released on September 23rd, 2023, and this film dramatizes the shocking true story of Heidi Broussard, a Texas mother murdered in 2019. The director is Michelle Ouellet. I hope I said the name right. And the screenwriter is Alexandra Salerno. And now this screenplay is adapted from the real life events. So there are certain names and locations that are changed in this movie, but the names of Heidi and her best friend stay the same. Emily Osment plays Megan Fieramusca and Anna Hopkins plays Heidi Broussard. So Emily Osment's portrayal of Megan reminds me a lot of, and you guys are going to get this, the 1992 made-for-TV movie, A Killer Among Friends, one of my favorites, starring Patty Duke, Tiffany Thiessen, and Ellen Holloway is played by Margaret Welsh. Now, in that movie, Ellen Holloway is actually Karen Severson from the Missy Avila case. Emily's character in this movie, Megan, I wouldn't say character, she's a real life person. She plays her so much like that character that Margaret Welsh plays in A Killer Among Friends. And you know what I mean? It's like this creepy undertone constantly. Even just seeing her face on the screen, you get chills. And this is a really good Lifetime movie. I'll read you a review. This gave it a 7 out of 10. Emily Osment delivers a riveting performance in an unforgettable true story. This movie takes viewers on a journey through a chilling true crime drama set against the unnerving backdrop of Austin and Houston, Texas in December 2019. And the film opens with Heidi Broussard on the brink of childbirth alongside her best friend, Megan. And when Heidi and her newborn daughter vanish shortly after, all eyes turn to Megan, exposing a shocking secret at the heart of their friendship. 2 of my main sources for today's episode were a Dateline episode titled Abducted. There are also many news articles that I have listed in my show notes, and also the movie, the Lifetime movie, Stolen Baby, The Murder of Heidi Broussard, which again, you can find for free on Tubi. Heidi Elizabeth Broussard was born on June 15, 1986, and lived much of her life in Lake Charles, Louisiana, before moving to Austin, Texas. She was a graduate of LaGrange High School in 2004. Heidi had always dreamed of becoming a veterinary technician, and she did work mostly as a waitress. She had this really soft spot for animals. She loved listening to music, and she was always singing. Her best friend said that girl would never stop singing. And friends and family describe her as welcoming, adventurous. She had this amazing spirit. Her laughter and smile could brighten a room. And even as a child, Heidi was known as the neighborhood, quote, gatherer of kids, always ensuring others felt included and cared for. Her strong faith in God was a guiding force in her life, and it was evident in her involvement with church activities from youth groups and Bible camps. In fact, Heidi met some of her closest girlfriends spent at those Bible camps every summer. Heidi was engaged to her fiancé, Shane Carey, and she was a devoted mother and a beloved partner. So Shane and Heidi had their first son, Silas. He was 6 years old when they welcomed their baby daughter, Margot, into the world. Now, Heidi grew up an only child and always attending church, very into her faith. So when she had children, she raised her kids in church. She even helped some of her friends find their faith. Heidi absolutely adored her little family, her fiancé, her son, and now they just welcomed this new baby, Margot Carey, which, by the way, is the cutest, most adorable name. Heidi had already developed this unbreakable bond, this incredible bond with her 6-year-old son, Silas, and he adored his new baby sister. Heidi is now living in Austin, Texas. She's 33 years old. Her daughter was born 2 weeks prior to this morning on December 12th, 2019. It's a Thursday, and it's a typical mother's morning. She's got to get her little son ready for school, so she's rushing around the house. You know exactly what this feels like. If you are a parent, your alarm goes off, but it feels like you've already been awake for a little bit. You're running around the house. You have all these mental checklists. It's like, we got to get the school forms. We got to get the lunchbox ready. Is the homework in the backpack? We got to get the kids dressed. Everyone's got to brush their teeth. And Heidi's friends also noted that she had this special bond with her son Silas. Every morning and every night, they would brush their teeth together in the mirror, and they even depict this in the very beginning of the Lifetime film. We've all had these typical, really rushed mornings where you couldn't imagine that anything is going to go wrong. Heidi drops her son Silas off at school, takes baby Margot, leaves the school, and no one ever saw her again. Now, she was supposed to go home. And her fiancé, Shane, gets home from his job, and he's like, Heidi's not here. The baby's not here. But her car's here. Her purse is in her car, and the baby's diaper bag is in the house. But he doesn't worry at first. He says, okay, let me text her. Let me call her. But she's not answering the text. She's not answering the calls. And he thinks maybe she was walking around the neighborhood. They lived in an apartment complex. Maybe she ran into a neighbor. They're just chatting. She's very friendly. But it's almost time for Silas to get picked up from school. And Shane is like, there's no way that Heidi would leave Silas at school. Something is definitely wrong. So he starts calling her friends, and they have no idea where she is. So he rushes to the school. He gets their son Silas, and he starts talking to her friends when he gets home. And this is when they realize, okay, listen, her car doors were unlocked. Her purse is inside. The diaper bag's in the house. How is she changing diapers? There is absolutely no way she'd be gone this long without the diaper bag. And she would never in a million years just leave her 6-year-old son at school. Now, one of Heidi's best friends named Rachel, she immediately kicks into action. She goes straight to Shane and Heidi's apartment complex. She's helping Shane look everywhere. They both call Heidi's parents together. And at first, nobody's panicking. Everyone is like, okay, listen, we're going to be able to find her. Something is just wrong. We'll all find Heidi. And now Heidi's parents, they live 5 hours away in Louisiana. So they just hop in their car. They take off to Austin. And thankfully, the Austin police immediately spring into action. They don't wait a second. And they're, on boots on the ground. They're handing out flyers. They're going to the media. They're canvassing the neighborhood. They're going to every single apartment complex apartment. And 24 hours passes at this point, and there is no sign of Heidi. There are absolutely no leads. Now, Heidi had this really super close-knit group of girlfriends. They are always going to have her back, and they know this is not like Heidi, and they all feel completely helpless. They don't know what to do. All anyone knows at this point is Heidi woke up, got Silas ready for school, dropped him off at school, the end. That's all we know. And obviously her friends are saying the same thing as her husband and her parents. She's never going to leave. We know that she's never going to leave her son. So her friends, they know the police are working overtime. Actually, the FBI is being called in at this point because the FBI has a special team that can work on a missing mother and child. So her friends start doing their own thing and they're thinking, we're going to help out any way we can. They start posting online. They're like, have you seen Heidi Broussard and her baby girl? They're going through all the Facebook posts. One of her friends is going into the apartment complex. She is going to every single door. She even said sometimes she would try to peer into people's windows, respectfully, and just to see if her friend is inside. She's going to the wooded areas in town. She's going to water. She's going to parks. That whole apartment complex is canvassed by her friends. I mean, these are some kick-ass, badass best friends. And not only is Heidi's badass crew of loved ones helping, but the police and the Texas Rangers are canvassing with the FBI. I mean, the FBI became involved only a few days into the case. They're involved and they still have nothing. They're thinking it's going to be very unlikely that we find Heidi alive at this point because so much time has passed. And so the FBI, along with the police, they hold their first press conference and they tell everyone, listen, we don't know. We don't know what's happening. We do not have a person of interest. And they even have Heidi's parents go on television and her parents are saying, we believe that she is still alive. We have hope. So here's the thing that we all already know. Now, detectives say to the family, to the loved ones, that more often than not, the person who abducted Heidi is going to be someone that's close to them. So they're going to interrogate her entire family, all of her friends, and they are fine with it. They're like, let's do it. Let's get this interrogation going because I want to help figure out where my friend is. Now, everyone in town is looking at this story. This is a huge story. A mother and her newborn baby, this baby is only 2 weeks old, is missing. And her friends have been making sure that this story stays out there. The only thing is, and we all know people get this way, we got a lot of armchair detectives on the case. And they're all looking at Shane. Now, everyone's first instinct is the fiance had to do it. We don't think the fiance is acting very cool in these interviews because Shane made himself available very quickly to local and national media. And Shane gives a ton of interviews. And people said that Shane was acting a little strange in these interviews. I've listened to some of these interviews and I don't think Shane was acting strange at all. Shane acted nervous, anxious, almost on the edge of panicky. He just wanted to know where his fiance was. He wanted to know where his newborn child was. He was begging the public for help. And in turn, some of the public was making him look out to be a bad guy. They're making him look to be a bad guy. They're writing it all over the Facebook page. People online are tearing Shane apart. And they are comparing him to Chris Watts. Can you even imagine being compared to Chris Watts? And I know you all know who Chris Watts is, but Chris Watts is a man who committed a highly publicized, a shocking crime in 2018. He murdered his wife, Shanann Watts, and their 2 daughters, and he went on TV. He was pleading for her safe return, and authorities did initially become very suspicious of Chris because his story had so many inconsistencies. So Heidi goes missing a year later in 2019, and everyone is pointing the finger at Shane and accusing him of doing exactly what Chris Watts did. And now Chris Watts confessed to killing his wife and his children. He was arrested, charged with multiple counts of first-degree murder, and now people are saying, okay, this is exactly what Shane must have done. And here's why they start looking at Shane. Now, Heidi's best friends, her group, her tight-knit group, they start telling police, Shane and Heidi didn't have the greatest relationships sometimes. They've been together a long time. They met way back in Louisiana when Heidi was working at a casino in Lake Charles, and they'd been together a while. I believe it was about 16 years. So they had a rocky relationship. They even split up a few times, but they always reconciled. They always got back together. And especially after having their children, they wanted to repair things and they wanted to make this little family they created amazing. They wanted things to work out and they longed to just be great parents to their children. Heidi has been missing for 1 week. It's December 19th. Now, everyone's losing their minds. It feels much longer than it has been because they don't know where Heidi is. So there is this podcast called J is for Justice. Now, I've heard about this podcast on the Dateline episode that I did watch. Now, these podcasters have one of Heidi's friends on their show, and what they do is a live stream. So while they're recording the podcast episode, they have people in their chat that can ask them questions and talk to them. And I believe on this day, they had about 3,000 people in their chat. So they're interviewing one of Heidi's best friends. And this interview is going on for a pretty long time. It's about 90 minutes. And while they're in the middle of this interview, this gives me chills. There are people in the chat saying there's breaking news. There's breaking news coming out of Texas. There's a raid going on. And they're all looking at the chat and they're like, what do you mean? What's going on? So there's about 3,000 people telling them what's happening. And they're telling them, hey, listen, there are news helicopters at a home in Houston. So one of the podcasters is saying, hey, you guys in the chat, why don't you guys look up who lives at this home in Houston? Can you guys figure out who it is? So they're all, going onto their computers trying to figure out who lives at this home that the news cameras and all the helicopters are flying around. And Heidi's friend is in the chat, one of her best friends. So she finds out, she Googles the address, and the minute she Googles it, what pops up? A baby registry. Police are raiding a home in Houston, Texas, and one of Heidi's friends Googles the address, and the first thing that pops up is a baby registry for Megan. Megan Fieramusca, 33 years old. She met Heidi as a teenager at a Bible camp. And now Megan says that she was pregnant at the same exact time as Heidi. How wonderful is this? These two best friends, they knew each other as teenagers and now they're pregnant. And you know what? They're basically due on the same exact day. Now that is crazy, especially considering that these two are the best of best friends. Megan was actually trying to comfort Heidi's other friends and Heidi's parents. She's AKA Karen Severson. Now, Heidi's mom is like Megan. I can never say. So her name is spelled Magen, and it's very difficult for me not to say Megan. And do you know how I feel about the fact that if you are not the greatest human being that ever lived, I don't really give a shit if I pronounce your name right. So Megan is going to Austin from Houston, where she lives, and she's coming to comfort everyone. Oh my God. She's even actively helping in the search. She's joining a group chat with all of Heidi's other best friends and telling them, I feel for all of you. We all have to bond together during this time, and we really have to help figure out where Heidi is. So let's go back to this podcast that's live streaming, and these badass women are figuring out all the details together on a live with all of their listeners. And so they figure out that the house the police are raiding is Megan's house. Now, on the podcast that day is one of Heidi's other best friends. And she was like, you guys, Megan just had a baby 16 days ago, and she named that baby Luna. So all of this is happening on the live podcast stream. So they're watching the newscast at the same time, this live newscast, and it shows that there are police all surrounding Megan's house, and they're entering the house. And they also show a car that is backed up to the door of Megan's house. And now Megan lived in this house with her ex-boyfriend. And now live on this podcast, you can hear Heidi's friend crying. You can hear her saying, there's no way. There's no way that Heidi would be at Megan's house. Like, what is happening? What is going on? Can you even imagine the mind fuck that had to be? And this is all happening on a live podcast stream. And mind you, this is also live newscast. And there is this human shield of police. And they're trying to shield the cameras, the news cameras. They don't want anyone to see. They make this shield because they find baby Margot alive. And they're carrying her out of Megan's house. Megan, Heidi's best friend since childhood. But where's Heidi? Megan had strangled her best friend, stuffed her body into a duffel bag, and then threw it in the trunk of her car. And that is where Heidi's body was this entire week. Can you even imagine what her friend felt at that moment, being on a live stream with thousands of people, watching her reaction, listening to her reaction? And she's finding out that this woman who had been consoling her for a week, who had been actively searching for Heidi, lied to her face this entire time. One of the most devastating times of her life. She's got this woman just lying straight to her face. I mean, you are a special kind of fucked up when you can look at Heidi's parents right in the face and you can lie. You can watch her mother cry. Heidi's mother is telling Megan, oh, you got to take care of yourself. You're a brand new mom. You're a brand new mom. No, she wasn't, because Megan was never pregnant. Heidi believing that Megan is one of her best friends of all time. She's sharing in this great news. They're both expecting babies at the same exact time. This is unbelievable. They discussed that they might give birth on the same day. And Megan even came from Houston to Austin to the hospital room with just family while Heidi delivered her baby. Margot was born on November 26th, 2019. And now even Heidi's mother said it was very strange when she and her husband arrived to the hospital room and they saw Megan there. They thought that was very odd that she was in the actual delivery room holding Margot. And even when Margot's new grandfather wanted to hold his grandchild, Megan took the baby out of his arms. She said she wanted to hold the baby. So here's the thing. Now, people were trying to say that Shane had something to do with this, like the armchair detectives trying to come up with their own theories. The police aren't doing anything. But that entire time, the police were doing something. The police were hot on the trail of Megan. So detectives had canvassed the neighborhood. They were looking at all of the neighbors' security cam footage, their Ring camera footage, and they did see that one of the neighbors' footage showed a woman that looked to be Heidi carrying a baby to a car with another woman. And they also talked to neighbors that said that they thought that this woman looked like Megan, because some of these neighbors had met her before. So they also realized, okay, so this lady, Megan, she said that she delivered the baby on December 12th near her home in Houston. But police went through her cell phone records and they realized that her phone pinged in Austin at Heidi's house on the day that she's saying she delivered her baby, also on the day that Heidi and her baby Margot went missing. Detectives also take a look at Megan's search history on her internet. And guess what? She Googled her friend's name, Heidi, 162 times before Margot was born. Now, I don't have to tell you again that Heidi's friends feel betrayed beyond belief. They also say when they see pictures of Megan on the news now, her face just looks different. She looks dark. She doesn't look like herself. Now, to begin with, Megan was arrested for kidnapping and tampering with a corpse. But 5 weeks after her arrest, she was charged with capital murder. And her lawyers, her defense lawyers, they go, oh, no. Let's not rush to judgment here, okay? Oh, what? Because I think I'm about to run as fast as I can to judgment. Everyone just wants to know why. Why did you do this? I was going to read you a review earlier in the episode, but I decided to wait until now because the review of the movie gave the film a 4 out of 10 stars and said, we don't even really find out what happened. Did the girls have a fight? Did she plan it? Why did the boyfriend believe he was the father? The baby is 3 weeks old when Heidi is killed. Did the boyfriend ask when the baby was born? Did he want to know if he was listed as father? I think I could have possibly overlooked the writing since it's not a murder mystery. We know what happened when the first scene begins. The first line in the movie is, why did you do it? And the last line in the movie is, why did you do it? That's the thing. Why did she do it? Now, the FBI detectives state that they believe that Megan had what was called maternal desire. And now, according to ANETV.com, they believed, the FBI behavioral analyst believed that Megan was motivated by this maternal desire, meaning that she had a desperate compulsion to have a baby. And forensic psychologist Dr. Sanjay Adhia told the Houston Chronicle in January 2020 that some women have fabricated pregnancies due to feeling, quote, insecure in a relationship. And their hope is that if they have a child, then their relationship will be fixed. It will feel secure. And so Megan had an ex-boyfriend named Christopher Green. And this man, Christopher, told the detectives that Megan had said she was pregnant with his child around the time he ended their relationship in March of 2019. So all the way from March of 2019 to December of 2019, Megan is just going crazy in her head, allegedly, is my speculation, that what is she going to do? She needs to get her boyfriend back. She's not pregnant, but she told him she was about to have a baby, and maybe if she has this baby, maybe he will come back to her. Now, on the other side of things, there is also Dr. Ann Burgess, who played a key role in developing the FBI's criminal profiling methods, and she is the author of A Killer by Design, Murderers, Mindhunters, and My Quest to Decipher the Criminal Mind. And she tells the A&E.com investigation team, if you have pure maternal desire, there's a more expeditious and less cruel way to do this. So if you wanted a baby to pass off as your own, it wouldn't be your best friend that you took it from. Okay, so they go on to state, think of it like this. So to be able to lie and pretend to support your friend, I mean, Megan was going to her doctor's appointments with her. She was by her side when she's looking at the ultrasound. So she's thinking, when you have this baby, I'm going to take it from you and eliminate you. And that suggests this kind of callousness and disregard for human emotion. And that is the ultimate manipulation. So maternal desire abductions, they typically happen after a woman lost pregnancies or if a woman is unable to conceive, but it was never confirmed if Megan began her deception after miscarrying or if she began this deception after her boyfriend broke up with her. Was she ever pregnant? We don't know. On February 2nd, 2023, Megan received a 55-year sentence after pleading guilty to first-degree murder. Megan Fieramusca is incarcerated at the William P. Hobby Unit Prison for Females in Marlin, Texas, and it is said that she has access to religious studies and educational and volunteer opportunities. Her first eligible parole date will be June 19th, 2047, when she will be 61 years old. It's just so difficult to understand any of this. Like, what was her mindset? In this A&E article, there is a Dr. Gary Brucata who states that the part that haunts him is that if we're going to be pragmatic about this situation, you wouldn't kill your best friend and use a dog leash to strangle them to death. The cruelty element of all of this says something else, like, your life made me feel like something was being rubbed in my face that I couldn't have. There's something more to this than just her having a desire to have a child. So according to the Austin police, Megan went to visit Heidi and her 3-week-old daughter, Margot, at the South Austin apartment that Heidi shared with her fiancé, Shane, and her son, Silas, and she strangled her best friend with a dog leash. And then she placed her body in the trunk of her car and drove to her ex-boyfriend's Houston home, where she attempted to pass baby Margot off as their daughter. So the judge in Megan's case was Judge Selena Alvarenga, and at the sentencing, she said, "I think it is difficult, if not impossible, to find justice and any sort of resolution to this horrendous crime. The fact is that by your actions, Miss Fieramusca, you have deprived an innocent child and an innocent baby the opportunity of growing up with her mother next to her. You have destroyed an entire family, and no matter what the sentence, no matter how long, no matter how harsh, nothing can change that. Nothing can make this family whole again." So Heidi's parents got to speak at the sentencing. They did ask that they weren't on camera, but I'm going to read to you that something Heidi's mother, Tammy Broussard, said. "She's forever strong in the midst of all the people's lives she touched, and she will live on forever. There is something I never imagined in my whole life. Me and my husband, we never imagined this. She was just so much fun and so full of life, and now it's been taken from her." Heidi's hugs were strong. They were full of love. They lingered in the atmosphere. I still feel them now. She loved beyond measure, and she never gave up on anything. When I think of her, which is every moment and everything I do, I ask, what would Heidi do? And that gives me comfort. Now, Tammy Broussard also said that she just wants this whole thing finished, to the point where her grandchildren are not asking what happened. I want my grandchildren not to have to linger in the dust of all of this. Heidi would want us to forgive her and release her because that's my Heidi. But I would really want the chance to talk to her. You came to our house, Megan. We loved you. You were welcomed into our home and we cared for you. You know, what were you thinking to murder our daughter? Baby Margot was returned home to her father, Shane, Heidi's fiancé, and Shane is now raising baby Margot, her older brother Silas, and a child from a previous marriage. And I wanted to share with you something that one of Heidi's best friends talked about on the Dateline episode. Now, she talked about the funeral. Oh God, this is the part where I'm going to cry again. Why do I do that? She said they're at the funeral, and it wrecked her soul as Heidi's friend to hear her 6-year-old son, Silas, just wailing and crying. And she'll never get that out of her head. His cries replay over and over in her head. And I debated whether or not to share that with you because it's just such a sad thing to talk about. But this is like, this woman, she took the mother away from these children without even a second thought. And at one point during Heidi's funeral, it was quiet. The pastor was talking and her baby, Margot, started crying. And whatever family member was holding Margot, they were trying to get her to be quiet, and everyone's listening. And the pastor said, "Let her cry. It is a beautiful sound." Stay safe and stay paranoid. Residue is created, hosted, written, researched, edited, and produced by me, Chrissy Champagne. Thank you so much for being here with me.